Okay, everybody, it is time to recap the lesson. So here's what we talked about. We were talking about factoring, and we first started talking about the greatest common factor. So that's the greatest. It's not just the littlest factor, but the biggest factor. So if I look at Ping and Salisha, what we notice is that Ping pulled out a 3 and an X, and Salisha only pulled out a 3. So we're looking for what they have in common, and they really do have an X in common. So Ping pulled out more. He common factored the greatest common factor, which is 3x, not just 3. So Salisha has more work to do. So if you do take Ping's answer and he factored out the 3x, he would have an x squared plus a 4x minus 12 left. But we know that we can factor this trinomial again into x plus 6, x minus 2, because they'll multiply to make the x squared, they'll multiply to make the negative 12, and they'll also combine to make the 4x. So now if we're looking for zeros, we set it equal to 0, and we have our mini equations. 3x equals 0, x plus 6 equals 0, and x minus 2 equals 0. Okay, then from there we just solve, since c equals 0, divide by 3, and 0 divided by 3 is 0. Subtract 6, x equals negative 6. Plus 2, x equals 2. So these are my 3 zeros, which I will graph on my graph. So zeros are also x-intercepts. So then end behavior tells me, because it's a positive value, end behavior tells me it has to finish towards infinity. It's a cubed, so it has to go through my root, back through my other root, and finish down my root. Okay? We also took a look at 4 other examples. Okay? We looked at problems 2a through d. We took a look at factoring out a common 3x. And then after we took out a common 3x, out of all 3 of these, we had an x squared plus 1x minus 2 left over. Recognize that we can factor this trinomial, x plus 2, x minus 1. We have 3 mini equations. If we solve all the mini equations, we get 0, negative 2, and 1, and we graph those. Again, end behavior, because it's a positive 3x squared. We will then graph it, knowing that we finish towards infinity. So we have our zeros. It has to look like this, through one root, through the other root, and then down. Okay? B, since it's an x squared, it's only going to have 2 roots. We're going to common factor out a 2x. So if I take out the 2x, I'll have left an x plus 3. Again, mini equations. I solve my mini equation. I get 1 to be 0. The other mini equation, I get negative 3, so I graph both. End behavior, that's a positive 2, so it has to finish towards infinity. So it goes through my 0, back through my other 0, and it's just a parabola. Okay, then we looked at C, and we common factored out a 3. So we take out the 3. It's not an x, it's just a 3. We're left with an x squared minus 1x minus 2. And again, we could factor this trinomial, x times x, minus 2, positive 1. We make our mini equations. But this is not a mini equation. That's just a 3. You have to have an x to get an answer. So we can divide out the 3. Then our mini equations give us an answer of 2 and negative 1. And we graph those. The only thing 3 really would do on this is make it steeper, but it would have the same root. So it could look something like this if you wanted. That's all the 3 changes, but does not change the values of the zeros. So then we thought, well, wait a minute. Wouldn't it be easier just to divide that out? So 10, 50, and 6, instead of factoring out a 10, let's just divide it out, which we could have done over here. So we divide out the 10, and we end up with 0, because we divide by 10, 1x squared minus 5x minus 6. I can factor this trinomial again into a negative 6, positive 1. I get my mini equations to be positive 6 and negative 1. I graph my zeros. End behavior tells me it's got to be positive, so I finish towards infinity. Goes through my root and back up out of my last root. Okay, and that's all we had for today. Homework was worksheet, and if you need that worksheet, come and find me. Okay, guys, I'm done. Done. It's done. That way I can post it if it'll stop.